life after the BRAC expansion, alternative energy in Gaithersburg, and the small business climate in the East County. All that and the latest news coming up next on Montgomery Plans. Thanks for watching Montgomery Plans. I'm Michael Brown. We're here to bring you up to date on important land use issues facing those who live and work in Montgomery County. Today's show will look at transportation changes coming to Bethesda as a result of the National Naval Medical Center expansion. Then, we'll travel with the county's planning director as he meets up with business owners in the East County area. We'll conclude with a look at a solar-powered home in Gaithersburg. But first, let's go to the top news-making decisions of the Montgomery County Planning Board.
Welcome to Plans in the News. I'm Susan Kennedy. Planners are setting the stage for a new master plan in the eastern portion of the county. The consolidation of the Food and Drug Administration at the White Oak Research Center provides an opportunity for the county to re-examine its goals for this area. The East County Science Center Master Plan will explore options for a new research and technology hub that builds on the presence of the FDA. The plan will address land use, urban design, transportation, and environmental issues. In February, the Planning Board approved a scope of work for the plan.
So we want to look at whether there are going to be opportunities for economic synergies related to FDA, whether companies would want to relocate to be near FDA, whether we should be looking at a property adjacent to this site that has development opportunity, whether a mixed-use center of some kind with new housing and retail would support the workers and also be of benefit to people that have lived in the area for a long time that might be looking for new retail, new things to do.
The plan includes several major properties and developments, the largest being the 610-acre Federal Research Center. The FDA occupies most of that site and now has about 5,500 employees on site. Adventist Healthcare also plans to build a new medical campus on 50 acres in that general area. Finally, about 300 acres near the FRC and Future Hospital could bring new businesses, housing, and retail near those jobs.
There's an interest definitely in, high-level jobs for this area and what we can see generated from FDA. There's a challenge here, though, with that. FDA tends to be a regulatory agency, so the opportunities for spin-off companies may not be quite the same as with some other federal agencies.
But jobs are not the only focus of this plan. County planners will take a serious look at transportation issues, including a full range of mobility options from transit to roads.
Unfortunately, here in the East County, north of the Beltway, there have been no long-term plans for transit. So over the years, we've looked at busways on 29 and things like that. We're going to relook at all the possibilities, including BRT, Bus Rapid Transit, and the Countyway study that's underway right now, which would put buses on US 29 in New Hampshire. And the one in New Hampshire would connect with the Purple Line. So we're looking at this regionally and with the I-95 corridor as well, and trying to think big and then sort of hone in and see what's realistic, particularly within the life of the master plan.
Planners also want to address ways to both enhance and preserve established communities while planning for possible growth. The plan will analyze housing needs, both workforce and affordable, and create public open spaces and options for improved connectivity.
In the town center, what could be a town center adjacent to FDA, definitely want to look at housing opportunities there. Redevelopment of the older shopping centers, we always look at whether there could be mixed-use opportunities, whether housing could ever be a part of some of those older centers. Not so sure, but yeah, that's a big thing we're going to look at. And FDA employees over time will be probably looking to live near where they work.
The Planning Board will form a Citizens Advisory Committee to help develop the plan. In addition, planners hope to engage diverse segments of this diverse community and draft recommendations for the board in 2012. The Forest Conservation Program is an important part of the Planning Department's mission. We caught up with Catherine Nelson, who briefed us on the progress of the program and also about the possibility of increasing the tree canopy in urban areas. The goal of the county's forest conservation law is to protect, maintain, and plan forested areas both now and in the future. In February, planners highlighted for the Planning Board the latest forest conservation efforts.
We continue to ask developers who are taking down trees as part of development projects to mitigate those forest losses. And so there is a lot of forest that is being placed into forest conservation easements as part of development. In addition to that, we are involved in mitigating some of those projects that have bought out of their mitigation requirements. And this has given us some money to plant trees and forested areas on parkland.
Forest conservation efforts are funded by developer fees accepted in lieu of planting when conditions do not support planting. The department's first replanting project took place at Ready Branch Park in the Patuxent River watershed. With help from volunteer groups, planners oversaw planting of 500 trees on 3.5 acres. Other reforestation efforts took place in Rock Creek Park in Chevy Chase and Watts Branch Stream Valley Park. For all these projects, planners work with volunteers to return these sensitive areas to a forest condition.
To foster a thriving aquatic community, you need to have cool waters. So when the sun can shine directly into the stream, especially along long stretches, that heats up the water. And the ecosystem that forms within that stream valley is much poorer. In addition, the runoff that goes automatically downhill and works its way down to the stream, when it goes through a forest floor area, there's a lot of filtration that happens. So sediment, pollutants, and in the case of Ready Branch, manure spreading was going straight into the stream, and this is no longer happening.
Planners are also working on increasing the tree canopy in the county, particularly in urban areas. Montgomery County averages 50% canopy coverage, but the Silver Springs Central Business District has just 14% canopy coverage.
It's to everyone's benefit that the canopy increases in a place like Silver Spring. Well, it decreases the temperature, so in the summer it makes it a much nicer environment for businesses and shoppers to be in. It helps improve water quality. It has a calming influence, scientifically proven that people are happier when they're around trees, and numerous other benefits. It's a win-win situation for everyone.
Recently, planners oversaw an assessment of the Montgomery County tree canopy. This will help planners set realistic canopy goals in urban and suburban areas. The Planning Department is developing an online tool that would allow property owners and neighborhood groups to assess their canopy coverage. For more information on the Forest Conservation Program, visit the Planning Department's website, montgomeryplanning.org. I'm Susan Kennedy for this edition of Plans in the News.
Welcome back. Our focus segment today takes us to Bethesda, where the campus of the National Naval Medical Center is expanding to include the Walter Reed Army Medical Center. Known as BRAC, short for Base Realignment and Closure, this federal project is due to be completed later this year. And that means the surrounding community is bracing for some major transportation challenges. Here's Valerie Burton with more.
Construction is underway at the National Naval Medical Center. Once completed, the campus is expected to grow to more than 10,000 employees, up from 8,000. Medical center officials also estimate that the expansion will draw 500,000 visitors per year. Directly across Wisconsin Avenue is the National Institutes of Health, with approximately 18,000 staffers. All in all, it's a busy place. On any given day, tens of thousands of people travel through this area. To keep all these people moving, planners are working on 9 transportation projects, from new turn lanes to sidewalk reconstruction to hiker-biker paths to improve mobility around the site. After analyzing each of the projects, county planners brought them to the planning board with recommendations to conform with the Bethesda-Chevy Chase master plan. Once approved and funded, construction and oversight falls to county and state transportation departments. I met up with transportation planner Larry Cole on Route 355 across from National Naval, where it's already hard to get around.
On a normal weekday, we see about 50,000 to 60,000 cars here, and there are also 11,000 people that use the metro station over here. So,
yes, and if we're here at rush hour, what does it look like?
it's pretty much bumper to bumper. Right now, it takes about 12 minutes to get from East-West Highway in the center of Bethesda to 495, which is about 2.5 miles. So it's a little bit faster than if you were riding a bike.
But not much.
But not much.
Infrastructure improvements are the responsibility of state and local governments, and a lot of different agencies are involved. There's the State Highway Administration, Maryland Department of Transportation, Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority, and Montgomery County Department of Transportation. Larry explains how the county planners and the Montgomery County Planning Board fit in.
Well, our initial role is to make sure that all the agencies that start working on these projects know what the ground rules are, which is the Bethesda-Chevy Chase master plan. And the master plan recommends that we have a multimodal transportation system, not that we just address single occupant vehicles, but that we look at the whole rainbow of choices, peds, bikes, transit, and to make sure that whatever is done is aimed at fulfilling that goal.
Then, as projects are developed, transportation planners act as advisors.
We assist them in reviewing the projects, fine-tuning them, making sure that all the modes are addressed so that when we actually get to the stage where it's ready to be reviewed by the planning board, we review the plans and make a recommendation to the board, not just as to whether the plans should be approved, but how they can be improved. And we did that on just about all of these projects, and the agencies have been very receptive.
9 transportation-related improvements have been proposed to ease the impact of the medical center's expansion. Keeping in line with the master plan, they take a multimodal approach. There are road improvements, transit improvements, as well as the expansion of the area's bike path system. So we're standing here on a shared use path. Can you tell us more about that?
The Bethesda Master Plan has a number of shared use paths in it, but this is one of the main ones along 355 along the NIH frontage. There's a little piece along Cedar Lane, but most of the path system is not there. But actually, after this project or these projects are over for the BRAC, most of the system will be in place, so we'll have a good regional network of bike paths.
Now, a lot of the existing ones run north-south. Aren't we also looking at east-west connections?
Right. Montgomery County DOT is going to be building a path from Old Georgetown to 355, and there's going to be building a path on Jones Bridge Road from 355 to Connecticut Avenue. And that one, at its easternmost end, when it's extended a little bit, it'll connect into the future Capitol Crescent Trail, as the West Cedar one will connect into the North Bethesda Trail, which heads up to White Flint.
These improvements will add to the county's many miles of bike trails. Of course, pedestrians share in the use of these paths. And one of the busiest spots is right here, in front of the Medical Center Metro Station.
There are pedestrian improvements at each one of the intersections that State Highway is doing, but the main pedestrian improvement would be right here at the Medical Center Metro Station. There are a lot of pedestrians, like there are right now, that are crossing at this intersection, but particularly during rush hours, there are a lot of conflicts with cars. There's also a need to get better access to Metro. There are going to be a lot more employees that are working at Navy Medical. There are going to be a lot more visitors that would like a better access to the Metro. So MCDOT has studied putting two pieces of a larger project, one of which is a shallow tunnel underneath 355 to allow people to get from one side of the road to the other without conflicts with the traffic. And the other piece would be to put new high-speed elevators on the east side of the road to allow direct access from Navy to right down to the Metro Station platform.
Now, won't that be a real boon to patients, people who may not have great mobility?
Oh, absolutely, because you're not just talking about pedestrians, but also a lot of wounded soldiers and people, and also some elderly patients that have a lot less mobility than does the average person. And the ability to have an elevator go directly to the platform is a big benefit.
Transportation engineers also are looking at ways to improve traffic flow. 4 intersections are slated for upgrades. Cedar Lane and Route 355 is one of them.
Well, this intersection at 355 and Cedar is the busiest intersection in the area, and in the master plan there's actually a grade separated interchange that's planned here where 355 would go over Cedar Lane and we'd have ramps to connect the two. But right now what's proposed is that we have some grade improvements, at-grade improvements, where we would add turn lanes to each one of the legs of the intersection so that people can move through a lot quicker. In addition, because the road's getting wider, we want to make sure that it doesn't deteriorate the pedestrian safety. These small islands would be eliminated and the curb would be moved much farther out so that the overall distance that pedestrians have to cross would be reduced.
So we've learned a lot about the Cedar Lane intersection improvements. I know there are other intersections that we're looking at. Can you tell us more about those?
Yeah, there are 3 other intersections. One is Old Georgetown Road at Cedar, which is a little bit, about 3/4 of a mile that way. There's also 355 and Jones Bridge this way, and Connecticut Avenue and Jones Bridge.
And are we looking at similar types of improvements there?
Similar types of improvements, a little bit differently at the 355 and Jones Bridge, because initially there wouldn't be much of a physical improvement, but what would change is that the state would add dynamic lane controls to actually just add overhead signals to allow an additional southbound left turn lane from 355 to Jones Bridge, and that would get traffic through much quicker. The second phase, which isn't funded yet, would add some additional capacity.
Funding is the operative word here. While all of these projects have been approved, only some are in the queue for construction. The bike path improvements along Cedar Lane and Jones Bridge Road will be completed this summer, and Phase 1 of the 4 intersection projects will begin in August. Not yet funded is the 355 crossing at the Medical Center Metro Station, which is waiting on budget decisions from both the U.S. Congress and the county's Department of Transportation. What do the residents in the area think of all this?
The council and the county executive set up a committee of residents and also the agencies to make sure that we would get the advice of the community as we develop these projects. So that group, the BRAC Implementation Committee, has been meeting for almost 5 years now to discuss this, and they've been meeting every month. In addition, when we took each of these projects to the planning board, the community was contacted. We received a lot of input from the community, and good, very helpful input. Any increase in traffic is difficult to accommodate, particularly when conditions are so congested. And that's the reason why the Bethesda-Chevy Chase master plan is so good in its direction to have a multimodal network, because the real goal is that we want to make sure that we maintain the high quality of life while we're accommodating the people that want to travel to and through Bethesda.
More information is available at these websites.
In our Around Town segment, we're visiting small businesses like this restaurant, Cuba de Ayer, in Burtonsville. We'll be back in just a few minutes to talk with the owner, but our first stop was in Colesville at an automotive specialty shop. Okay, Roland, we are here in Colesville today at the East Side Automotive Clinic, where they specialize in window tinting and other automotive repairs, a small business here in the east side of the county. Tell me a little bit about the new census numbers. We're now a new majority-minority community. How does that impact a business like this?
Well, this business, as I think you'll hear about later, is a terrific example of the future of employment in not only Montgomery County, but across America, where it's pretty much predicted that most new jobs will be created by businesses just like this. They're filling a niche and they're creating jobs. And it's happening in places where you normally wouldn't see things happen. Tell us about your business.
We got started in 2007. Started tending the first year out of high school, and I never looked back since then.
So you started at home?
Yeah.
And then it started to get a clientele, and then you moved into a real place?
Yes, yes, sir.
Wow. Now, county a good place to do business?
A county is a great place to do business.
Taylor has spent his entire life in Montgomery County and decided it was the best place for him to set up shop. He says he's had no problems dealing with the county, just some minor issues that affect how he can advertise his business from New Hampshire Avenue.
You got to look at signage.
Exactly.
Not only just word of mouth, you want to get the message out to people that are driving down the street.
Yes, sir.
Other than that, he says, it's a great location for his business, which stays steady day in and out.
How many cars do you do a day?
Around 6 or 7. 6 or 7
Wow.
cars, about an hour and a half a car. I'm usually doing by myself, and then get about 5 or 6 done a day.
Are you doing them on Saturday too?
Saturdays and Sundays, it's by appointment, so we get to plan our schedule ahead of time.
The small businesses are key right now, aren't they, in keeping the economy going, where people can go in and get a job if they're unemployed and out of work.
Correct. And a lot of people have started their own businesses. And those small businesses, if they're successful, start to grow, they start to employ a few people. How many people you got working with you?
4 or 5.
4 or 5. Any problems finding employees when you need to find them?
It's not hard finding employees, but it's hard to find employees that are experienced in window tinting and installation for car alarms.
So Peyton, you talk about you got employees here, 4 or 5. Where are they coming from? Where do they live?
Nearby, mostly Virginia, sometimes a lot of Silver Spring.
So the guys from Virginia, late sometimes in the morning?
Yeah, but we're pretty cool about our small business. We don't really trip if we know you're driving only an hour from work.
Right.
To get here, we know how Virginia traffic can be.
So, for people like Taylor who want to do business in Montgomery County, Stanley says it's critical the county makes it as easy and affordable as possible.
This has a lot of impact on everything the county will be doing, from what we normally do with land use. Should we be allowing home occupations of a certain nature? What's happening with our business regulations? We just heard at a zoning meeting the other day that someone who might have wanted to open up a nail salon along a busy street that's zoned residential might have to go through a special exception process that could cost as much as $75,000 just to find out if you can do it. You know, who can afford these kinds of things? We have to take stock of how we regulate things, both in terms of process, land use, etc., to try and give people the opportunity to explore things without having to go through a whole song and dance and a lot of debt in order to find out just if they could have a business like this.
The next stop on our tour was Cuba de Ayer in Burtonsville, a family-owned Cuban restaurant. We caught up with the owner, Jessica Rodriguez, about how her business has fared since she opened up 6 years ago.
So you have a lot of different folks coming from a big area. Your place come from a lot of places?
Yeah, our clientele comes from all over Washington, Maryland, Virginia. It's not that many Cuban areas and restaurants in the area, so therefore they travel from Virginia, from Baltimore.
And do you work with family members?
My mother-in-law does all the cooking. My sister-in-law helps manage so that I can spend a little time home.
How many people do you employ?
We employ about 15 people, a lot of part-timers. This area is very hard to find people because of transportation. The area is very limited as far as bus transportation goes. We have a bus depot in Burtonsville,
right,
and we have a bus that runs up and down Old Columbia Pike. But the problem is they don't run on the weekends. It minimizes their availability, and it becomes a little more difficult for us.
And how's it been at this location?
All the restaurants around me have complained about how significantly their traffic has reduced, all between here and Briggs Cheney, because of all the overpasses, because people are now
just passing
by versus being able to actually stop in. So I haven't felt the effects as bad, and I also have an upper hand because it's a Cuban restaurant. Not that many Cuban restaurants in Maryland. So I'm more of a destination restaurant, not a pass-me-by restaurant. So I'm very fortunate in that sense. People aren't driving by and seeing me and saying, I want to eat there. They're specifically coming to me, where had I been a passerby restaurant, it would be a lot more difficult for us to sustain.
What do you think this area needs to help businesses like yours grow?
When I came into the area, sometimes people thought, well, are other restaurants going to be upset that you're in this area because you're going to take a business away from them? And I said, actually, I think it's quite the opposite, because we're all so different. When you only have 1 or 2 choices, you don't think of Burtonsville as a place to go eat.
Right.
You think of going to either Laurel or Rockville or Bethesda. Once you start having a variation, especially different types of ethnicities, so it's a big pool to choose from, you start thinking of Burtonsville as a destination to go eat. You know, again, the question's asked, are you afraid of the competition? It's like, no, we are all bringing something to the table, and I think that that helps us all out.
My goodness, that looks delicious. Well, that does it for this Around Town segment. Maybe we'll be in your neck of the woods next time, but for now, it's time for me to dig into this.
Solar energy is becoming a viable option for people seeking alternative ways to power their homes. Technology and installation costs are coming down. There are federal tax incentives to help with the initial purchase. And here in Montgomery County, residents who install solar systems can realize a property tax credit of up to $5,000. So, are these systems making a difference? To find out, Susan Kennedy recently toured a solar-powered home.
In 2008, this Gaithersburg home was updated to include a solar-powered energy system. Owner Debbie Parrish was looking to reduce her carbon footprint and lower her energy bills. So far, she hasn't been disappointed.
The idea of harnessing the power of the sun and producing electricity was just so exciting to me. And basically, the panels are on the roof. They have wiring that they go through the attic to a combiner box, and then it goes out alongside the side of our house, comes in the side of our house into the inverter, and the inverter converts the direct current, DC, into AC. And then right here you can see it goes back into our electric panel, and it's actually then tied to the grid right here.
The way this system works, Parrish can see her energy savings at the touch of a button.
This is a solar monitor. It basically shows us how much power we have generated on any given day. So today it's showing 19,785 kilowatt hours. That's a good day. And then it also will give us the lifetime of our system, how much CO2 was avoided, and how much money we saved over the lifetime of the system.
And the savings translate to real dollars, which is evident in her electric bills.
So here, for example, you'll see in July of 2007, we used 1,490 kilowatt hours of electricity. And in July of 2008, our first month of the solar system, we only used 860 kilowatt hours. So as you can see, that's about 40% less. And then you can see October is pretty incredible. October of 2007, we used 1,090 kilowatt hours, or billed for that amount. And in October of 2008, we were only billed for 24 kilowatt hours, which I think came to $17 or something like that. It was
wow. And even in the middle of winter, when the sun is at its lowest, the Parrish household is able to generate its own power.
So this right here is a picture of the previous month, so from January 11th to February 9th, 2011. And as you can see, we had some really good days. I think our best day here was January 13 at 19.11 kilowatt hours, and our worst day was right here at, this was January the 26th, and that was 0.68 kilowatt hours.
So is it safe for me to say that when I'm looking at this and these days where the bars are higher, those are real sunny days?
Those are real sunny days, yes.
So even in January, and we've had a very cold winter, even in January, we can generate almost 20 kilowatt hours of energy in the middle of winter. Over time, owners of solar energy systems accrue Solar Renewable Energy Credits, or SRECs, which can be sold to businesses who need them in order to comply with government regulations. Recently, Parrish sold 4 SRECs for close to $1,400. But like she says, it's not only about the money.
We have reduced our carbon footprint by 20,431 pounds since we have installed our system, and that basically is equivalent to not driving 20,431 miles or planting 229 seedlings that have grown for 10 years. So it's really pretty phenomenal how that helps our environment.
Well, that does it for this edition of Montgomery Plans. For more information on these and other planning board topics, visit our website. Join us again next time when we bring you more on the issues that affect quality of life here in Montgomery County. I'm Michael Brown, and thanks for watching.